Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. In the next hour, we're going to explore this very, very interesting and fascinating question of how to use Class Companion to wrap up in-class activities. Let's first of all talk about what we mean by the types of activities. And generally, what I'm referring to here are three different types: discussions, role plays, and simulations. And as you can see from the table there, when we're talking about discussions, we're talking about things like Socratic seminar, fishbowl seminars, the standard classroom debate. Think, pair, shares could be thrown in there, round tables, all kinds of different things. Contrast that with, however, role plays, mock trials, mock constitutional conventions, author press conferences, real life conversation role plays. This is where a student, one or more students, take on the specific role of a person. So we have discussion, we have role plays, and then of course we have simulations. This isn't where a student is taking on another person's character, but they are taking on someone else's role, a tad bit confusing. But for example, like the stock market game or the Model United Nation, mock elections, they don't have a particular role attached to a name. We could also be talking about a lobbying situation where students are acting as a member of an interest group. So today, wrapping up activities, and in particular, these three kinds of activities in mind: discussions, role plays, and simulations. Now, what do we really mean when we say wrapping up an activity, especially in an age before Class Companion? And ideally, what we're usually referring to in Teacherville, so to speak, is the teacher is going to ask the students one of three different kinds of questions, or to rephrase that, is going to ask the students a series of questions, and those questions being able to fall under one or two or three different categories. So that first category is what I'm referring to here simply as the learning and content question, or the learning and content category. These are questions, wrap-up questions, where the teacher wants to find out, did the student actually learn what the teacher had hoped the student would learn by placing them in the activity? The facts, the concepts, the skills. And questions like this are usually phrased in either multiple choice form or typically in short answer form. Briefly describe one, or what was one example of a piece of evidence? What came first? Or for that matter, which of the following students, I'm sorry, that's the second one. And now let's move on to the participation and community questions. Now we're going to get it. Which of the following students said A, B, C, or D? Or who said something that really made you think? Who added humor or lightness in a helpful way? And who stepped up as a leader? Participatory communication questions, learning content questions, MCQ or SAQ. Certainly the first is usually MCQ. We'll talk more about that later. The second one can be either. This last one, almost always SAQ, reflection and evaluation. Teacher asks students to reflect on their own role and the value of the activity. Questions like, what would you do differently next time? Or briefly describe one thing you would do differently next time. A question like, if you were the teacher, what would you change? Or what is one thing that you might change? And the question I always like to ask on a scale of 1 to 5, how either valuable was this activity, or how valuable did you play a role in this activity? And always the question of why. So here we go. We're just going to back up for a second. We're going to talk about how Class Companion can be used to wrap up any one of these three activities, and how it can be used to generate these kinds of questions and then to place them before the students. So now that we're kind of clear on all of that, let's actually see how Class Companion would do that, and can do that. Teacher can do that with Class Companion, using or focusing on the classic fishbowl discussion as an example. So what is a fishbowl discussion? For those of you unfamiliar with the approach, and to be honest, I taught nearly 40 years. Socratic seminar I was familiar with, But I don't think it was until 20 year in or something like that, did I really in any way grasp what the fishbowl was. So forgive if some of you feel I'm talking down to you at this particular point in time. But what is the fishbowl discussion? Inner circle, outer circle. Teacher provides all students in the class with a question of some sort. Students prepare in advance. Inner circle discusses, debates, shares ideas as it relates to the question. And then outer circle, either en masse or in groups or one at a time, moves in and replaces someone in the inner circle, a switching of roles. How can a teacher use Class Companion to wrap up a fishbowl discussion? Well, there are a number of steps. The first step, as I envision it, is the teacher creates a Google Doc. Title that Google Doc Wrap Up in Class Activity or something similar to that. Take a look at the right side over here. What should be included in that Google Doc? Well, the title of the activity, so fishbowl discussion and maybe a little bit more. What are the objectives? I'm going to show you an example here in a second. A step-by-step procedure. Anything and everything that you have, give to the students in advance or that helps you, the teacher, prepare for the discussion. But then you throw one other thing, I would suggest, into that Google Doc. And that is a roster of the students' names. First name, last initial, unless, of course, a student objects. And to be honest, in the past, I have had that happen, in which case I ask the student to select one of 5 or 10 pseudonyms. But every student's name, one way or the other, is going to go into that doc. That's step one. Step two, as the students are engaging in the activity, the teacher is going to take notes. The notes will record everything and anything, the observations in real time, the insights, the notable contributions, anything funny that took place, times when a student persisted after a struggle. I remember very distinctly, one of my students, very shy, had prepped the night before and had come in saying, I really have something to say, but their nerves had gotten the best of them. And they demanded a chance to speak and they fought off those nerves, and it was excruciating to watch. But when they got it out, they got their thought out. So I would jot down, wow, what a tremendous bit of courage that took. What great persistence. Someone who expresses an extremely unpopular opinion, someone who took a risk, any leadership moment. I now want to show you what that might look like. The Google Doc with the teacher's notes there. So we're going to go up here. And if you cannot see it, I'm now showing a Google Doc. Brittany, if you could let me know if anyone's not seeing it, it should say at the top, wrap up in class activity. So this is one, you can see activity title here. I'll make it a little bit larger. There we go. A fishbowl discussion on the forces that drove the civil rights movement. Now I'm going to work through this, and you might be saying to yourself, hold on, he's spending a lot of time showing us this thing, but there's a reason for that. And we'll make that very clear after we're through with the document. But this is, if you will, what I'm envisioning the teacher could this wrap up in class activity. The teacher is putting this together before the fishbowl activity, before the activity, but then adding to it their notes. So here's the overview, the question. I want to draw your attention to it. Which had the greatest impact on advancing the goals of the civil rights movement, grassroots activism, or government action? And if government action, which branch, legislative, judicial, or executive, played the most important role? I envision this for a middle school, high school. I mean, it could be a government class, could be a history class. It could be a course an English course where they're reading and in process learning about the history of the civil rights movement. And then some specific instructions, clear objectives, norms, 55-minute class period, 24 students. All of this, the teacher has plugged in there in advance. The essential question, the learning objectives, the norms for the discussion. Teacher has a 55-minute class block to work in, 24 students. Exactly how this teacher is going to divide the class into 4 groups of 6. outer circle 12 minutes, rotate in the other groups, divide them into groups of 3, 18 in each group, gets 12 minutes each or something along that line. Outer circle task, inner circle expectations, sentence stems, because the point is you're just not going to be saying, hey, this is what I think, but also whether you agree with somebody, or how do you ask a question, or if you disagree, what might you say, how do you introduce that? And then the preparation day before instructions. So now look down here. Here's what I'm envisioning as the sample roster. So as you can see, first name, last name, as we go through the 24, and then 4 or 5 students in the class say, no, I'm still not comfortable with that. Anything even close going up online, I don't want that. I know what's coming. So I'll take a pseudonym, Freedom Writer, Liberty Turner, something like that. Now let's take a look at the notes taken during the discussion. And you can just imagine, Maria argued grassroots protests like the Montgomery bus boycott created the pressure that made the laws possible. Or let's go down here to Marcus, made a connection between what happened in Selma and the passage of the Voting Rights Act. Or let's go down here, Aisha voiced an unpopular opinion that the judicial branch alone was, in her words, the real driver. So you get a sense of what these notes might look like. And if we scroll a little bit further down, Leah stepped in to redirect. When discussion veered off topic, teacher might say really took a lead there, or whatever the case might be, and encourage the other one, Milek, encourage quieter peers in the circle to contribute. All right, so now we're going to go back to the slideshow. And if you can't see it, please let me know. We have the Google Doc, we have the notes. And now we're going to take the content of this Google Doc, we're just going to do a click all, select all. We're going to open up Class Companion. I'm going to demonstrate this live in just a second. We're going to plug that entire content, that entire document into Class Companion, the Generate with AI feature. And then we're going to prompt it right there in Class Companion. Maybe we'll say, generate 10 multiple choice questions based on the content. 6 should be learning and content questions, and 4 should be participation. Or we could also go this route. Look over here. We could ask it an SAQ question, generate 3 short answer questions, briefly describe one thing you might do differently, all reflection questions, briefly describe one thing you would do if you were the teacher running this activity, and there's your on scale of 1 to 5. So we'll back this out a bit. Here we are. With the first 3 steps, Google Doc, the taking of the notes, the plugging of the notes, the doc, the wrap-up doc, into Class Companion, and then possibly, or then adding to it the prompt. What do you want to have happen? And then assigning to the students and distributing and watching what happens. So here we go. We're now going to do a demonstration live. There's my demo button. I'm going to go, if you will, just give me 1 second to, let's see, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. Here we go. Let me see if I can. I'm going to have to step out here for a second and just copy like that. There we go. And now I will come back to StreamYard. Okay, if you cannot see it, please let me know. There we go. So we're going to click on demo. Up comes Class Companion. I'm going to log in with Google. There's my email address. We'll scroll down here to U.S. History, 1491, 2015, just a regular U.S. History course. I have my choices up here, Insights, Assignments. I want an assignment, so I'm going to click on Assignment. I'm going to add an assignment. I get the 3 choices, as I always do: generate with AI, import, find in content library. So I'm going to, first of all, click on Generate with AI. And I'm going to tell it, now, what do I want? I want to generate 10 multiple choice questions, you saw already, based on the content. Now I've got to go back to the document, and this is going to be a bit tricky, so give me a second here. I want to go back to the document. There it is, the Google Doc, and I'm going to copy all of it. If you can't see it, that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, and there I'm in Class Companion. Please let me know if you're not seeing the Generate Assignment with Class Companion feature. And now I'm just pasting in everything in that wrap-up activity Google Doc that I created. And I'm going to press Generate and Review. And as always, it takes a couple of minutes, sometimes 3. The longer the read, the longer the request, usually the longer it takes. Can't wait to see how this turns out. And I'm also curious to hear what you have to say about it all. All right, there we are. So let's see how it did. Fishbowl, title of assignment, Fishbowl discussion assessment, forces that drive the civil rights movement. Answer the following 10 multiple choice questions based on our Fishbowl discussion. I'm liking the lead in here about the forces that drove the civil rights movement. Questions 1 through 6. Oh, look at that. It's even going to guide us a little bit on the types of questions, focus on historical content and the evidence discussed. And question 7-10, focus on participation, group dynamics, and peer insights. Choose the best answer. Love the little introduction. Very helpful for a student. Let's look at question number 1. Which grassroots action was cited as demonstrating the power of economic pressure to spark legal challenges during the civil rights movement? Well, sure enough, I cannot imagine a fishbowl activity not bringing that up. So I think this is a pretty good question. Just cannot imagine that that wasn't mentioned. Second question, which Supreme Court case was discussed as providing a legal foundation? I'm sure Brown was talked about. The students did their work, had to have been mentioned. So 2 for 2, good questions. 3, which legislative act was highlighted? Well, of course, the Civil Rights Act. Or let's say you say, oh my gosh, no, wait, not one kid mentioned the Civil Rights Act. Well, then what do? Because you're saying, I'm proofreading these questions, I'm looking over these questions, and I realize this would not be a fair question to ask the kids because this was actually not brought up. Well, you just click on the box where the question appears, scroll down a little bit, so you can see it, and you click the word delete, and it takes the question out. Now we're going to be down to probably 9 questions. Let's just see what it looks like. Which event was connected to the passage of the Voting Rights Act? Okay, Selma to Montgomery, sure. Which branch did one student argue was, oh, look at that, a quote. So we're actually reading the notes from the teacher because it was expressly mentioned in it. That's why I took a little time to draw your attention to it. Class Companion's AI is literally reading the notes the teacher took, where it said one student mentioned that the judicial branch was the real driver of the civil rights movement. Good question. And then now we're going to get to some questions about participation. Which student was noted for redirecting the discussion? Leah. Who was recognized for encouraging quieter peers to contribute? Malik. And which student's use of humor helped break tension during discussion? Devin. Oh, and then there's a 9. Which of the following best describes a norm for participation in the fishbowl discussion? Any of these questions you could just take out and you can replace down here where add a multiple choice question. You can just create your own if you want. So it's not like you're locked in. If you want to reword it, you can take it out and then reword it the way you want. So what you do then, of course, is you publish it. And that means you send it off to your class right here, U.S. history class, and then you set it up. So
Peter, you want see the demo. Sorry.
Oh, you're what? You weren't seeing the demo the whole time? Uh-oh.
You can't see the demo.
Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. I'm not sure when we lost the demo. I'm assuming when I went back to the questions. Thank you, Brittany. So I'll go back. We can edit that out, maybe. Yeah, when we finish this. So sorry about that. Let's just go back and take a look at the questions that Class Companion produced when we popped in the prompt. And I'm just going to assume that this entire section has been taken out. So I'll start all over again. First, it comes up with a little introduction. Answer the following 10 multiple choice questions. And it does a nice little information for the students there as to what the questions 1 through 6 will focus on and what 7 through 10 will focus on. And then it says, question number 1, which grassroots action was cited as demonstrating the power of economic pressure to spark legal change? And we come up with a Montgomery bus boycott. Good, solid question. Question number 2 is going to address Brown versus Board. I mean, I'm sure these two came up, very anticipatable, logically anticipatable. Imagine they're spot on. Question number 3, which executive action was mentioned as crucial for enforcing desegregation in the schools? So let's say you say, well, now time out here, this question was not asked, or this question that is being asked, I should say, is covering content that was not learned during the fishbowl discussion. This was not revealed, not a good question. Well, all you do is you click on the box and you scroll down and you press delete, and it removes the question. So as you can see, you have full control here. And if you say, well, now I'm down to 9 questions, I really wanted 10, you simply scroll down to the end of the questions and you click add multiple choice question, and you go exactly where you want it to go with the next 2 questions. I'd like to show you that it also included some participation questions. Which student was noted for redirecting the discussion? Well, there's Leah. There's Leah. And who was recognized for encouraging quieter peers to contribute? Malik. And which student's use of humor helped break tension during the discussion? And Devin. The point being here that you can not only have Class Companions AI create questions that assess student knowledge of the content that you were hoping they would learn as a result of their involvement and participation in this activity. The Class Companions AI can also help you assess the student's ability to have, what do we want to say, paid attention during the activity, that they actually can recall who said what, some of the more memorable moments of the activity, or were they tuned out and then you don't really know. You can do both of those. And so that's what we wanted to do there. Now what we're going to do is just look at it from the preview as a student. And let's just go down here to question number, where's that one? Right here. Which branch of government did one student argue was the real driver of the civil rights movement, sparking respectful debate? Let's just say they said legislative branch. Let's see how this works. Okay. Is understandable, Congress were right. However, the question is asking about which branch was argued, and consider which branch and reflect on the key. And what we've got here is the student mentioned the judicial branch. Now, this is going to be something interesting. Which student was noted for redirecting the discussion? Let's say you clicked Leah. You chose Leah, who was indeed noted for redirecting the discussion. If you chose Alex over here, I want to try to find one where it's not right. There we go. It looks like you chose Alex as the person, but it in fact was Malik, because Class Companion is reading the teacher's notes. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's move back to the slideshow for a second. Please let me know if you can't see the slideshow. And what I want to do is now move to reflection questions. In other words, aside from creating some MCQs, when you're wrapping up your activity, you can also use Class Companion to create some SAQ reflection questions. And what I'd like to do now is a demo here. So you know how this is going to work. I'm going to click on the demo. I'm going to scroll down to the class. I want it to create an assignment and an SAQ. I'm going to click on add assignment. I'll again generate.
Your screen, Peter.
Thank
Sorry.
you. There we are. I appreciate it. Thank you. There we go. And now I'm generating the assignment with AI. I wonder if I still can paste. Yay, I can. All right. So I've pasted in the entire wrap-up activity. And now I'll say something like this. Okay, let me see. I'll go back here for a second. Okay, let's just do it this way. Let's try it differently. Brief. Okay, I want 3 SAQ reflection question. Three SAQs that allow the student to. I'm not going to actually plug in word for word. I'm going to see word for word the prompt that I had. I'm just going to create my own here. Allow the student to reflect on the activity. Okay. One question should start with briefly explain one. Let's just try that, see what happens. Or we could just plug in word for word the prompt that I had. There we are. Okay, let's see how they came out. Now that you've participated in the fishbowl discussion, reflect on your experience and what you learned. Well, I really didn't want what you learned. I wanted reflect on the experience. So this will be interesting. Let's see what happens. Briefly explain one way that participating in the fishbowl discussion changed or deepened your understanding of the impact of either grassroots activism or government during the civil rights movement. Okay, a choice, not bad. Reflect on the norms for the discussion. Which norm did you find most challenging to uphold? Oh, fun. During the fishbowl. How did you address or experience this challenge? And then think about a moment in the fishbowl when someone's comment or question made you reconsider your perspective or sparked a new idea. Describe what was said and how it affected. All right, not bad. I was hoping to get a different set of questions. I showed you those earlier, but if I wanted those questions, all I needed to do was literally copy and paste them in, and it would have given them to me. So I'll take those 3. And in fact, let's just do this. I'll add another. Actually, we won't do that. It'll get too complicated. So now we're going to try to publish it, right? MCQ, we published. We're going to publish our SAQs. And I click publish. Uh-oh, what comes up? There's this short answer rubric, it says. Choose, oh yeah, I see what happened. I forgot to put in a rubric. Choose a rubric to apply. So now I'm going to add a rubric. And I can import one of my own. I can go to the content library, Class Companion content library, and see the ones that Class Companion has created for short answer questions. I believe there are even some up there for short answer reflection questions. And if Class Companion hasn't provided those, then there are also a whole bunch of rubrics that have been created by teachers. And I imagine someone has created a rubric for a reflection question. But if not, I'll just generate it with AI. And so, I don't know, we can have some fun here. How about create a 3 category rubric. Let's see what it is. I'm going to really not be very clear here, very precise. I'm doing this intentionally. I'm trying to be as vague and ambiguous as I can because oftentimes when teachers hear they're going to create a rubric, that I know my head spins. I'm going to have to provide all this information. And so I really want to just give it the least effort and then see what Class Companion's AI can do with that. Okay, so there we are. 3 point. Oh, not bad. Look, it's got the 3 points. And let's see, 1, 2, 3 criteria. Not bad. Use of evidence and examples, reflection and thoughtfulness, grammar and spelling. Okay, I'm fine with grammar and spelling. Why not? Oftentimes not in a social studies class, but maybe for this particular assignment, I want to see what the students can do. Reflection and thoughtfulness. Assess the depth of reflection, the ability to respond thoughtfully, question, good, indicating personal learning or insight. I love it. And then let's see, 0, 1, not bad. The response is thorough, thoughtful, shows clear insight. Okay, I really like that one. And then, do I want this use of evidence and examples? Sure, why not? And so now I have a rubric. If I want, I can click here and improve it with AI a little bit more, or I just finish it. And now I can publish it to my history class if I want, and just press continue, and then assign it whenever I want, send it off to the kids. They take it and they get instant feedback on the SAQ and on the MCQs. So we are now going to go back to the slideshow and recap. We've looked how we can create MCQs, and we looked how we can create SAQs. Also how we can create rubrics for those SAQs, all using Class Companions, AI, the Create Assignment with AI feature. We've learned how we can do all of that. And we learned how we can do all of that for the sake of a wrap-up activity following all kinds of different things, discussions, so on and so on. Fish bowls, whatever the case might be. It's a long list. So now that you have an idea of how that works, what I would like to do is move this to the Q&A portion of today's webinar. And I've given you a whole bunch here that you can look over. I'm certainly willing to take any questions that you might have. We still have a good chunk of time. There's something else I want to show you after this. Brittany, if you want to host this, well, I see. Let me come back to the box here. I want to just invite you to look these questions over. First of all, these are at least the questions that I would ask myself if I were in your shoes, or I would ask me if I were in your shoes. And I want you to just take a moment, look those over, give you 60 seconds to glance them over here. And then we'll see if anybody wants to ask a question. And if not, I'm going to address one or two of them on my own. All right, 15 more seconds. All right, wow, let's see. So I'm going to, Brittany, if you want to put some of these questions forward, or I'm not sure quite how we'll do this. I'm looking from the very top on down right now. Oh, I'm seeing where people are coming from. Nice. A lot of social studies teachers here. Good. James and Catherine, I see you haven't used a fishbowl, but if you would, rather than ask a question, if you would, I'd be really curious. So pick an activity that you're going to be doing here in the near future. And Catherine, if you want in there and let me know, how would this work? Do you think this might work for you? What activity are you planning on putting before the kids? I see Catherine's name up, but I'm not hearing her. Oh, let's see. I just saw it. Can we pop that back in again, Catherine? Let's see. With multiple choice, does CC? Yes. Thank you. I see the question. Yes, it does. I can demo that for you, but it most definitely does. If you get the wrong answer, if you get the right answer, better yet, Class Companion allows you to control the number of attempts that you want the student to have before the explanation is offered. And you can control that with both the MCQs and with the SAQs. Hi, Elaine. Nice to see you here. I'd like to hear about number one. Oh my goodness. Okay, 1, 3, 5, and 7. All right, let's see what I can do. So, question number one is: if you only have PDFs, can AI upload them? Yes, you can. AI has come a long, long way and does a very good job, even a surprisingly good job. I have really put that to the test in the last 2 months of being able to read the content of PDFs. So yes, you can upload them, and yes, Class Companion will be able to read that. Your other question was number 3. Yes, it can also read handwritten notes, and most definitely it can read screenshots. No problem with screenshots. With the handwritten notes, I don't have a lot of experience with that. I don't upload my own handwritten notes, but I do know that when it comes to Class Companion assigning FRQs, which includes short answer questions, it does have the ability to read the handwritten notes. I've just never tried it. And the only thing I can say is I'm not real clear on the turnaround time. I know that when it's not handwritten, it's always within a matter of a few seconds where you get the feedback, instant feedback. I have to look into this, and unless Brittany, you want to come on and comment on it, but I think with the handwritten notes, it takes a little bit longer than that, and especially if it's an entire class worth, but I wouldn't hold me to that. So let's see, question number 5. Let's take a look here, question 5. How accurate is Class Companion's AI when scoring student work? Well, we're talking about the MCQs, I don't ever find a problem. So I would say it's 100%. Having tried it over and over again, it's 100%. When it comes to the SAQs, I would also say it's pretty spot on. Many times it depends on the rubric, but it's spot on. The beautiful thing there is the students, Class Companion has built in a dispute feature. So if the student looking over their scores says, I'm not quite sure this is right, well, they can just click the little button, the dispute feature, and then the message comes to you right away that the student is disputing the score. If you want, you can pre-program the settings there and require the student to first offer up some kind of explanation. I don't. If a student is not comfortable with a score, I just want to see that come immediately to me. Then I invite the student up to my desk and go, okay, let's put this to words. What are you seeing, and what questions do you have? Why are you doubting this? Fabulous learning takes place there. That I welcome those moments like you can't believe. They don't happen often. And when they do happen, I will almost always, in fact, I can't even remember an instance, but I will almost always say to the student, I think Class Companion is correct in this case. Boy, I wish I even had a great story for you where that wasn't the case, but I don't have one. So I think it's spot on with SAQs. And then there was one more question there, I believe. Could I see that question one more time? Elaine? No? Okay. There we are. And number 7, thank you very much. And then number 7. Okay. Do students have a way to dispute a score? And the answer is, I see. So I already answered that with the button. Yes. All right. Is there anybody else who has a question? Let's see, I'm looking at it here. Yeah. Well, to upload the notes, so we copy and paste. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just copy and paste, right? 1, 3, 5, 7. Good. So unless you're welcome, Elaine. Unless there are any of you who have another question, I would just like to address, this one question. And I'm a member of the AI for Teachers Facebook group. If you are not yet a member of that group, it's 500,000 strong. It is by far the best group for teachers out there. I know the admins, they work hard to keep the place pretty civil, but it is Facebook, so once in a while things go off the rails. But they really do a great job of keeping that thing right where teachers need it and want it. And one of the questions that oftentimes gets discussed, and it's pretty much the hot topic question across the country right now, is, is it not the teacher's duty to grade and assess student work? So assess, grade, and provide feedback. And those are two separate things. And I'd just like to share with you, my response to that. What is my duty as a teacher? And plain and simple, it's to teach kids. It's to get them to learn. As far as I'm concerned, if using AI, if using Class Companion gets them to learn better, faster, if it's going to do that, well, then that's my duty to put that before them. And if it's going to create problems for them and negatively affect their ability to learn, well, then it's my job to keep it away from them. And so, no, I don't believe that it's a teacher's duty to assess all written work. I think it depends. And when you have a program like Class Companion, I also can see where you could say, okay, I'm going to run it all through initially, and then I'll back check 20%, back check it, and find out for yourself, what that's all about. Which then also goes to question number 9. Do I use it for formative checks, formative wrap-ups, or for summative? And I'm a big fan of formative. I find students really get into it, that I don't necessarily need to hold the grade over their head when we're talking MCQs and SAQs to get them to take the learning seriously. And I would love to see and hear teachers from all across the country talk about how their students are reacting to AI instant feedback tools, Class Companion in particular, when it comes to formative wrap-ups, formative checks for understanding, where you're not placing the grade on it. Are students engaging in the assessment, in the wrap-up? And my guess is that we would find that the kids across the board are, and that's not to say we're going to win over every kid, of course not, but that it somehow holds them. And why that might be the case, I'm hoping some research can bring out someday, but I would think that would be the case. Anybody else? Catherine, did we get to your question? Good. Okay. Anne, Melissa, James, just recognizing some of the names here from some of the other places. All right. So let me do this now. Let's go now past to in essence, close out. There are 3 additional slides that I'd like to put before you. And since I'm going to be sharing this slideshow within the next 24 hours, you'll have access to that link there for the demo that I made, for the wrap-up activity. You'll also have access to what I'm about to show you, the overview of the Class Companion video. That's the first slide here, produced by Class Companion CEO Avery Pan about 1.5 years ago, but still very, very strong for our time. Just a video that you can watch to get an understanding of how this platform works. And then clicks to 4 videos. How to generate assignment with AI, which I just showed you. And my guess is you probably don't need the video to see that or to understand that. To hear a video, see what it looks like from the student experience. My guess is you already have a pretty good idea how to do that. A little bit more on how to create rubrics. And this one I think you would find valuable. And then for those of you who have an assignment, how to import it. So those are the 2 slides I want to show. Now I'm going to move through this one, and as I do, it's going to make a little bit of noise usually. 1.
Hi, I'm going to show you how to generate assignments. Hi, I'm going to show
lots of highs there. And I want to show you this slide here, which one really nice thing about Class Companion is that ever since it launched, it has worked really, really hard to continue to improve. And that means it has spent a lot of time listening to teachers, still does, listens to teachers. What would you like to see? What do you need? And so here you have some of the top features that you can find on the platform. And the one I did not share this time around, I did in my last webinar, was the Ditto Tutor feature. So to just briefly introduce that to you right now, a student gets an MCQ, a student gets an SAQ. They don't understand the SAQ. They don't understand the MCQ. There's a word there, multisyllable. They've never seen that word before. Or an answer choice that they don't even understand what that answer choice is referring to. They click the Ditto Tutor button, and up pops a little dialogue that says, "Hi, I'm your Ditto Tutor, and I can provide you with some help, some hints, and maybe even some additional support." Teacher controls the extent to which Ditto provides that support. But one of the really nice things is that the support Ditto can provide is to translate the question into a language of the student's choosing, which I'm a big fan of. And oops, sorry. And so those are just some of the, there you go, the translation feature. There's your handwriting assignment feature. For AP teachers, this is a big one. I'm going to be talking about that at some other point in time. But these are the features, at least the most important ones. And next, and the final slide I want to share with you all is the slide to a 1-hour webinar recording. That is John Carippo of Edu Protocols, Justin Unruh, Scott Petrie, and myself. And so what is this all about? Well, it is showing how Class Companion can be used to wrap up an Edu Protocols activity, to check for understanding after an Edu Protocols activity. And in that regard, it's really an extension of what we're doing here, but specifically related to the Edu Protocols. And that brings me to the end of the webinar. Let's see here. I'm looking at the list here. Are there any other questions? And if not, let's see. Yeah, nice. I don't see any others. In that case, I will call this a day. Thank you all for joining, and looking forward to seeing you at one or more of the webinars I'll be doing weekly now through the end of September. You'll probably get a notice as to the titles and so on. But other than that, thank you again, and wish you a great school year. Bye all.